So, D&D 3.5 got me to give up role-playing for a while, and I stumbled across Mazes and Minotaurs on the web, and it got me back into it. And through this, I discovered the old school revival, which got me even further into it. And it's a free game system. Absolutely, completely free. You can get it on the Mazes and Minotaurs website or on Drive-Thru RPG, but it's just PDF. And I find PDFs hard to comprehend, so I printed it out and made my very own book. So let's take a look inside. So there was an original version of Mazes and Minotaurs, which had all the information for the players and the Maze Master, including all the monsters and magic items. And then there was a revised version, which is what this is, and I prefer it. I've only met one person who prefers the original game. But it's got 6 attributes, just like most games. Might is sort of like strength. Skill is like dexterity. Wit's like intelligence. Will is like wisdom. And grace is like the physical part of charisma. Now, luck is a new attribute. It doesn't have constitution and might, or constitution and strength separately. They're both part of might. But luck is the new attribute. And then you have some, after you've rolled those, then you have, there's a unified set of modifiers for them. After you have those, then you take your bonuses and add them up to get these calculated ones. So melee is your might bonus, plus your skill bonus, plus your luck bonus. Missile is skill plus wits plus luck. You may have noticed that luck is like the Uber stat. It's the Uber attribute. So you want to have as high a luck score as you can get. The initiative is the same constantly forever. Your initiative is always the same. It's always 10 plus your skill modifier plus your wits modifier. So classes that have high skills and wits have high initiative. Classes with low skill and wits have low initiative. So as you would expect, things like thieves are high initiative, and barbarians tend to have the worst initiative. So if you know your initiative is always going to be low, that might affect your strategy that you use. Defense class is 12 plus your luck plus your armor. It uses ascending armor class. Even though this is a very old schooly game, your pits is based on your class plus your might modifier. So it has you roll in order. Some people have you roll and then arrange them to taste. I have another method, which I may cover in another video. But yeah, I think I've skipped something. No. Okay, yeah. Athletic prowess is calculated the same as melee, but there might be modifiers that apply to athletic prowess and not to melee or vice versa. Danger evasion is calculated the same as missile, and danger evasion is the most common saving throw. Mystic fortitude, that's your save against magic. Physical vigor is your save against poison and death. And personal charisma, as I said, grace is like the physical appearance part of charisma. Also, your grace, will, and luck modifiers all determine your charisma in this game. Okay, so we have an equipment list that is very short. There's hardly any equipment. Armor consists of helmet, shield, and breastplate. That's it. And each of those gives you +2 to your armor classes, ascending armor class. So you start with 12. If you're fully armored, that's 2, 4, 6, 18 armor class. And there's some examples. So then we get into the different character classes. The classes are divided between warriors, magicians, and specialists. So I'm going to skip Amazon and come back to them. First of all, there's the barbarian. Now, a lot of people, the barbarians are, it's pretty much similar to barbarians in D&D. If you're a D&D player, you want to know how these sync up. Barbarian would be like barbarian. They can add their might modifier to their damage. And a lot of people pick barbarian for that reason and that reason alone. And they don't realize that Amazons can do that same thing with a bow at range. And hunters can do it some of the time, and anybody who gets a weapon made by Hephaestus can do that. So that's not a good reason to pick barbarian. However, it is a fun class if you pick it for role-playing reasons. They can add their will modifier to their rolls against, to their saving throw, and they get a weapon of choice. And they start with a dagger, their weapon of choice. So it's a barbarian weapon. It's basically a big sword, a big axe, or a big club. A missile weapon or javelins, bow or javelins, and a shield and some money. So, go back to Amazon. Amazon is like the female barbarian class. So, they add their skill modifier to their damage when they're using their bow. And they add their grace modifier to their armor class. And so that's the, they start with some good equipment. A dagger, a melee weapon like a sword or a spear, a shield, and a bow and arrows, and some money. Okay, so Centaur. It's basically a barbarian on a horse. One of the things that all characters can, in one round, they can move their full movement rate and make an attack. Centaurs can do that too. Other classes can choose to run at twice their movement rate, but they don't get to attack. But centaurs can still attack with a missile weapon when they're doing that. And centaurs can gallop at 4 times their movement rate. And they can't do melee or missile attacks, but they can make a special trampling attack, which doesn't roll to hit, but your opponent gets a saving throw. And sometimes your opponents have armor classes that are so high that trampling is the only way you can hit them. So that's a handy thing to have. So this is a good class. When they're galloping, they get a bonus to their armor class too. So it's a good class. And they have a bonus to how much they can carry, which I will cover when I get to encumbrance. Okay, so the noble class. The noble class is to simulate all those heroes you know from Greek myth. Perseus, Theseus, Hercules, all those. And it's a really flexible class. If you're one of those people who likes to customize your class, this is it. And there's certain things written into the rules that I don't think most of my players realize. If they did, I would probably have trouble talking people out of playing nobles. That everybody would want to play a noble, but people don't realize it. One of the things is their primary attribute is luck. So they're going to have a really high luck. As I said, that's the uber stat. They have bonuses to their starting attributes. And they start with 10 times as much money as any other class. Now, Spearman is to represent the hoplites, the Spartans. And one of the things about the Spearman class is they have the best armor class. So it's oftentimes a Spearman who's got only a few levels under him can be impossible to hit. That's why if you're a centaur running up against a group of spearmen in a shield wall, you might want to gallop towards them and trample them and not try to hit them with a melee weapon or a missile weapon, because you can't hit them. Also, they tend to have really high initiative, which means they get to declare their actions last and they get to hit first. So it's a good class, and if there are two of them, they can form a shield wall, which gives them even better armor class. Okay, so now we get into specialists. First, there's a thief, which you may be familiar with from other role-playing games. One of the things that's different about this variation of the thief is these thieves, compared to D&D thieves, start off about equal to a medium level thief, and when they get high level they get to be really good at doing their thieves things. And this kind of colored my perception of how to DM thieves ever since. I liked them to have a chance to do what they could do. Now the other class is the hunter. Now the Amazon class could be called the archer class. The Amazon class could be called the archer class, but so could the hunter class, and if you wanted to customize it that way, you could make the noble the archer class. A noble configured right would have a better chance to hit than the Amazon, even though the Amazon does more damage. And the hunter, it's sort of the archer class. It's also sort of like the ranger class or the fighter's thief class. Now we get into the magicians. Now, the first one is the Elementalist class, and I really wish this was not in the original version of the game, and I really wish it weren't in this one, because the Elementalist is much more like the way people usually play D&D magic users, so I don't like it that much. Now, the Lyrist is this game's version of the Bard, and they are really, really powerful at helping other characters, but they're the worst class of all at roll to hit, roll damage. They're not so good in single combat, but they're really great at helping the other players. Now the Nymph, they're nature spirits, and the Nymph is sort of like the Druid class for this game. And Priests, that's sort of like the Cleric class. One of the things about this game is that the class roles are less in stone than they are in other games. So, for example, a spearman, if he didn't wear his armor, could be a really good substitute thief. And if you're in the wilderness, a nymph could be a really good substitute thief. But she'd be even better if she were helping a hunter or thief try to be stealthy. She'd be good at that. Priests, as I said, they're like the clerics from the games you know, but they're also good at being substitute fighters. That their spells are such that they can help them be good at fighting. However, they work even better if the cleric casts those spells on the fighter. Sorcerers, this is the main magic class for this game. And any monsters that have magic powers, almost all of them have sorcerer powers. The sorcerer is like an illusionist and like a psionicist in some ways. I used to know a player who liked to run first edition psionicist or illusionist with psionics, and he would have loved playing a sorcerer. So every class gets a patron deity. Some of them it doesn't matter, and some of it's more important. But the main reason you want a patron deity is, and I encourage the players to choose different ones from each other so they don't fight over who gets to wear the helmet of Athena. So this game is limited to 6 levels. And I found that the game works pretty well up through 3rd level, but starting at 4th level, the game kind of breaks. It's hard to find monsters that will challenge players when it gets that high. Alright, so encumbrance. It's a pretty simple encumbrance system. It's 10 plus the other things add modifiers to it. The exception is that centaurs, this is an old rule that I still use, they start with 20 plus these modifiers. And so if you're carrying more than your might, then you slow down because you become encumbered or fully encumbered. But centaurs can carry twice their might before they start to become encumbered, and 4 times their might before they become fully encumbered. So that's an advantage for them. All right, so they have a few maneuvers that you can go do in combat. One thing with damage, the way it works is if you get knocked below 0 hit points, you have to make a physical vigor roll of 10. And if you fail it, you die. If you make it 20 or more, or rather, if you pass it, you fall unconscious unless you roll a 20 or more, in which case you don't get knocked unconscious and continue to fight. But if you take one more hit, you die. So you can do something heroic in that case. But healing and recovery takes weeks. It takes a really long time if you don't have a class with healing spells. Now, there are some special maneuvers like charge into battle. Hold back and parry are the same thing, except hold back is when you poke with a spear to keep the monster away, and parry is when you swing your sword. Shield wall is something only spearmen can do. Subterfuge is where you don't attack for a round, and then when you try to attack the next round, you have a bonus. Okay, mention other sneak attack. All classes can sneak attack. You have to do it with the sword or dagger, and daggers do sword damage when you do sneak attacks. All right. We're getting close to 20 minutes. I'm going to stop and put this in another video. So.